Welcome to another Tolomatic ToloTalk, our weekly installment here. We are revisiting a topic we covered maybe 2 months ago, but got a little bit of some new information, a little new cut on it, and this is really about selling multi-axis solutions. And there are some other companies, competitors of ours, that offer sort of prepackaged things, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a customer that doesn't really want that prepackaged thing that doesn't work for their application, and in that case, they have to map out a concept. I see that up here. They finalize the design, and then you actually fabricate something. And we've put together a brand new piece of literature that we thought would be interesting as a sales tool for you. And the purpose of a lot of this presentation today is just to kind of introduce you to that piece of literature, and then explore things that you may want to highlight with your customers and how you can use it to try and sell and open up more new multi-axis or gantry opportunities. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of an intro and through that brochure. I'm going to ask Adam Farley to comment on 3 or 4 different applications, and then we're going to finish up with Luke from Solve, who's been a key partner with Tolomatic and a number of our distributors, with the ability to help integrate these designs and sort of talk through some of the nuances of that towards the end, and then we'll wrap things up. So should target around 25 minutes or something like that as we go forward. But multi-axis and gantry solutions have a lot of things involved, right? So you got a number of different types of actuators. Here's just a list of the catalog items that are available from Tolomatic. And then there's all of these things here to start thinking about. Right, and so as you get away from a prepackaged sort of little XYZ unit, there's a lot of things that need to be coordinated and involved. And for many years, people have said, Tolomatic, you should do this. And we've tried to do some, but as we've grown, this gets more and more complicated. And so we are really, at this stage, relying on our distributors who have a lot of value add capability to do that. And then we've also been partnering with Solve in applications and opportunities where the distributor and or a system integrator doesn't want to do that sort of activity and would rather work with someone that does that on a day-to-day basis. And so, both options are great, and we focus a lot of our effort here, and then we help with the moment loading, coordinated motion, and then rely on either our distributor, system integrator, or Solve to kind of handle a lot of these additional pieces here. And we'll talk through some of that. But there's endless configurations, as you can imagine. As you think about length, you think about belts versus screws, you think about rodless versus rod style, single motor combinations, 3, 4, 5 axis type of systems. Here, this is a carriage mount, so we're mounting the actuator to the carriage and then actually moving the entire body up and down, so you can pick and place things off the end of this actuator. There's just almost no end to the various ways you can think about orientating and linking together the different actuator solutions. So what that means is you have to go through a design process. So you really need to have a concept of some sort. You start with a napkin, kind of identify what's going on. And then as you think about the motion here in this design phase, is the motor going to run into something, right? Where can I orientate this, and how do I get power to it, and how does that power continue to move throughout this system here? So you step down into a design phase, you get 3D CAD drawings put together so you can look at interference as things move back and forth, start to lay in some of these cable tracks, think about how you're going to drive power and motion, right? And refine that design, and then finally come out with a solution that's going to work well for the customer. So here's a quick checklist of questions that you should be asking as you start to think through this with a customer. So the customer says, hey, I need to pick up this or move that or adjust these things here. So think about how much money is in their budget. Do a napkin sketch or CAD layout, and Solve with their group can work very well with that actually, and put together some drawings for you in a very fast capacity, 1 to 2 days typically. Think about how much load is going to be needed to be moved. We've done things with champagne glasses. We've done things with paint. We've done things with totes, right? So from very heavy to quite light. But what's that payload capability? How best can we then move that? The speeds and cycle times are really important. So the faster you want to go, the more you're going to lean towards a belt solution of some sort. The slower or more force, more capability, precision, then you maybe would go for a screw-driven actuator. The envelope, not only what is the size of the unit that you're moving around, but how much space do you have for this entire configuration, and then what is it going to potentially bump into on either side. So the envelope, that's for the work, and then the system envelope as well. How you're going to coordinate this motion, what kind of controller, what kind of actuators, what kind of positioning response do you need to get, and how important is it for them? Do they need to just get to the same place every time, or do they need to know exactly where they are at all times? Environment, is there going to be dust? Is there going to be paint? Is there going to be, what's all going to be moving around here? There's a number of different things here. So all right. Sorry, there was a note. I guess it's from us. Welcome you to the presentation. To help in the sales process with all these different things to try and keep track of, we put together this new 4-page brochure. So we think this is something you can email or print off and mail to your customers that you could use as a sales tool as you sit across a 6-foot table from them and talk carefully with them. But we think this will help also, convince the customer that, hey, these guys have done this before. The actuators that they build and design are meant for this purpose. So rather than build my own, or rather than keep looking, work with this customer. Work with this, have this customer work with this supplier and with our distribution channel. So this is available today. We just put it up on our website yesterday. So it's on the website inside the iPad app. If you look under any of our rodless actuators here, you will find it there. This is a link. You can do a screenshot of that. And this is available as of today. So the front of it just is meant to be eye-catching, but talk through the customer a little bit about the concept piece, the design piece, and then finally the fabrication piece. And our ability here to take things from Solve, bring them to ToloTalks and put together a system, or send actuators from here to Solve and have them put something together, or have the distributor buy pieces from Solve, buy pieces from ToloTalks, or have the distributor buy actuators from us and then provide their own integration pieces as well, or work with a local system integrator. So all sorts of different ways to accomplish this somewhat complex sales process. So you open up the brochure, page 2. We're saying no cookie cutter system here. So this is, how do you want it? What kind of design you're looking for? And we start to highlight a few of the different things that would be off catalog, right? So you're not going to find this in our traditional actuator catalogs, longer strokes than normal, putting 2 or 3 carriers. We've seen that more and more now as we've got bigger moment loads, as people want to extend things. If you're going to be moving a robot, things like that, different mounting options that we can work with you on, different drive configurations, carrier mounting, all these different things that really need to be thought through and wouldn't be something you'd think about normally as you look at our product catalog. So we wanted to make this available. And then also on the bottom here, Solve helped us think through, what are the other things that you need to have a successful installation. You're going to have this single and multi-axis control. Someone's going to have to do some programming. What kind of safety features might the customer need or want into their system, right? There's a number of different pieces here. So Solve and/or your local integrator, or you as a distributor, can provide those pieces there. Page 3 really outlines then all these different configurations. You have to start here and then think through these key design considerations. And I'm not going to talk through all of them, but how's it going to move generally? There's a piece here to collect some information from the customer. And then there are things that we can then, from a distributor and Tolomatic standpoint, that we can figure out based on this information. So what kind of space does the customer have? And that helps us figure out, what kind of envelope, cable management, et cetera. What kind of loads are they moving around? And that can help us as well. So it's really, get some interest, then talk through this. We don't want to make it overly complicated. That can scare customers away, but there is key information we need to make it successful. So gather this information, talk through what we need from them, and then we can finish up our piece of this and then arrive at a final design. And we just show you here a couple different configurations of X, Y, Z, XX prime, YZ, a number of different options here. So, and give you some ideas on some of the additional pieces that you want to keep in mind as you think about your gantry system. So as you lay it out, there's 4 pages to this brochure, so it's not super long or involved. We try to minimize the text and make it a lot more visual, and hopefully you can build off of some of these different systems here and see or generate interest with your customer about what they could do to create their own gantry solution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam Farley, and you can talk through a few examples.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna go through a couple of just some application examples that we've done in the past year or so or more. This one on the left here is it's basically a sheet metal transfer station. So this customer came to us and said that we have it's an ergonomic issue really. It's they had a truck that would come in and unload the sheet metal, and then it had to go through a process into a rolling process, and they basically had to have 2 or 3 guys on each end to pick up these 4x8 metal sheets. So they want to come up with this idea of basically this gantry would come over, pick up a sheet, and then send it into the rollers. So this concept here shows the framework. Embedded in here is we have some B3Ws, belt drives, and there's a couple of GSAs in the middle to pick up the product. So those are all, and it was all large vacuum system on the end of tooling. All right. Next one on the right, this is another one that came to us, I think from down south, is a customer that was actually having problems picking up glassware. So these are actually champagne glasses. So you can imagine, the small feet and the stem of the glass, and they're very easy to tip over. I'm sure we've all broken a few in our day at some point, but the idea was they had a lot of scrap. What I was told that they were breaking a lot of glasses, and they wanted to have a system that could actually transfer these things and move them in a way that, that less scrap and a lot more throughput after they were coming out of these heat ovens after they got formed. So this is another frame rail system, very similar to the one on the left, using our B3Ws. Again, these are jack shafted, so that there's a shaft on the top. So we've been doing a lot of this lately. This is a jack shaft orientation, and we link up a couple of our belt drives. They're typically the way to go with a single motor, usually single motor gearbox assembly. And then we use a very large GSA 32 in the middle to pick up the glasses with a it's a heavy duty end of arm tool. All right, so next. There's a couple others that we've been looking at too. This came to us a year or 2 ago. Customer wanted us to design a paint booth for large trucks, buses, as you can see here, even like semi trucks as well. Again, the ability to get enough height and reach around these buses was the prime goal here. So again, utilizing our long length B3W product for belt drives, and then I think we had B3Ss that were on the lower or on the sides to run the paint guns up and down. All right, and all these were going to be I think bellows, maybe they were bellow tracks on these things to protect them from the paint and purge ports, just to keep any of the paint from sticking to it. But very large system, as you can tell. And Luke and I worked out some of the large framework assembly, as you can tell, that was going to be supplied by Sol. Next guy on the right came to us recently. These guys cut large pieces of fabric material, and these rolls are very large and they're very heavy. So again, they come off a converting line, and then they come into this cutter system, and they cut them in different sections. So product changeover was going to be a key to this, and then having a very rugged system, because fabric is very thick. I think it was 3 or 4 inches thick. But again, utilizing our B3W belt drive product. Again, we were, I think, doing some jack shafting on these guys, and then using some B3Ss with dual wraparound carriages. Those actually mounted the heavy duty cutter system to those things, and that's located in the center there. And then there's an adjustment on the Z. You'll see there's the GSA on the adjustment there as well, just to move the cutter up and down in the Z axis. So that was another one. That's 40 feet long, that guy right there. And again, just Luke and I are working on this with the customer, is just supplying framework and all the details for this application. So next, this is another application. Some of you guys might have seen this before we did this, but this is a good one. This is these guys do blow molding. So the customer is a blow molding company, and their hopper system into the blow molds are actually taller. So what we wanted to do is they had a fork truck that would bring these totes in. So the totes weigh probably 300 or 400 pounds a piece, and they get brought in by a truck, and then they get loaded, and then we actually pick them up and stack them, and then bring them into the filler lines to the fillers. So what we got here is a couple of big MXE 63s S's. There's a large frame and bearing. There are bearing blocks on either side of this frame design here. So the 63s are in there for the lift. We also utilized our slide right gearboxes. So there's a left hand and a right hand side of these guys tied together, and then it's a single motor. So this is an AC motor set up, single motor with a gearbox to drive these, and they supply the lift for this assembly. Nice thing about this project was, they needed heavy duty and reliability. These totes weigh a lot. It's an ergonomic thing. Again, the ergonomics was the big thing. They were loading these. They had a couple of guys loading these at a time with like a floor jack at one point. So this is taken away. It's a fully automated system now. This went so well that we did 80 of these lift systems at this customer. It was a 2-year project, and so it was a lot of systems over the time. And then again, utilizing jack shafting configuration in our slide right gearboxes. This was a win-win project. Good stuff. Next customer here, on the top right, you'll see what they originally used. So they had a chain and rack system. It looked real heavy, a lot of assembly time here, but it's very slow. It was run off an AC motor, and it was a chain driven and rack system. And these are dip tanks. So this is ultrasonic cleaning dip tanks. So the customer asked us to come in and look at updating these, what we could do. And they're looking to move faster and get more throughput through these machines. So we came up with this design using B3W and B3S product. As you can see at the bottom, we got a heavy duty gusset design on the transition plate. So again, using our product, we can actually not just move the product, but with the dual wraparound carriages on the B3W and B3S, we can actually hang on to that overload, that heavy overload, the weight sitting out there. So again, speed was an issue. Speed and loading and throughput were the main concerns for the customer. Ease of use, product changeover was another big thing. and that was the ROI for these guys to move forward with this application win. And it still continues today. We quoted some assemblies not too long ago. Again, same type of setup using this product.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to transition over. No pun intended here, but Luke, if you could just talk us through some of the additional things you need to think about as you're putting these different pieces together, and the things that ToloTalks traditionally hasn't supplied, that distributors would have to come up with on their own, or that Solve could help them with. So.
Sure. Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. So Adam presented a bunch of nice cases. It can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes when you're not familiar with this type of systems. What we kind of want to show you here is that you can really break this down into very simple individual components. And we have a few examples here. So the first thing you see here, you have actuators that have to come together in a certain fashion. You're going to have to create transition bracketry plates and you name it to connect them together. So you see on the screens here as a few examples of it. They could be very simple, just plates that allow the two actuators to get bolted together. They could be right angle situation that kind of could be configured out of either welded pieces or bolted together pieces. Based on the type of accuracy that you're looking for and parallelism between actuator, we can include dual pin and things like that in those plates to get a good alignment that doesn't require any fine tuning. It's just bolts in and it's in the right position. So this is just 4 different examples of those transition plates, as we call them. If we move on to the next slide. We've seen, you probably noticed in a lot of those other applications that Adam ran us through here, there's a lot of cases where you cannot just take an actuator and expect it to handle the load. You could double the actuator and maybe handle that load, but then costs become an issue. And sometimes a good approach is to take a single actuator and to complement it with an auxiliary rail. So what you see here on the screens are really 2 different type of application of this. The 2 on the bottom in the center and the one on the right are just a single auxiliary rail that is running along the actuator, kind of giving it a better moment capability and a better load capability. The other example, the other 2 photos are really just a single actuator with rail bolted onto the side, which in this case was helping us to take up large moment requirement that this application had. So you see, we can get creative. I mean, this is a B3 S screwdriver that is complemented with a couple linear rails on each side, and then there's a custom carriage bolted together aluminum that is making the whole thing work together. And obviously these are just examples. There's many different ways. You probably saw on some of the other examples before on the application side. We used a Thompson shaft type of situation where you have like it's a round shaft that's guided, that glass handling. Gantry had a couple of those on either side of the GSA actuator. So, again, endless configuration. We can come up with any form and shape we want. So Andy touched on that earlier. Whenever you're moving things, very often you're going to need to bring power to those things. So you need to manage harnesses and hoses and your power in general. So, cable management is a big thing. Here you see like 3 different examples. Again, it's very much based on the application, many different configuration. Move on to the next one. So a couple things on this slide. The top portion, the 2 first pictures, Adam talked in length about that, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. But jack shafting, taking 2 actuators and mechanically connect them together so that they can be driven with a single motor is a big thing. It saves money. It helps in coordinating motion. So it's just a good approach all around. And then under that is more of a something to keep in mind. Whenever there is a gantry opportunity, usually there's something at the end of that gantry. And sometimes customers already know what it is. Sometimes they need a little help to, figure it out. And that is something that Solve can help with and integrate into the Telematics solution. So just a little bit about Solve and why is working with us I think could be a good fit for a lot of you guys. We try to be very responsive in our response to opportunities. Like Adam was mentioning earlier, typically within a day or two after you provided us a lead and handed over an end sketch, we will come up with something that looks similar to the pictures you see on that slide. So somewhat rough concept, but pretty close to reality, really. So the other thing I think that's noticeable is lead time. Usually, by the time the actuators from Telematics come in, we try to parallelize the manufacturing and procurement of whatever we need to add to that system, and typically by the time the actuator arrives, we already have everything ready. And depending on the complexity of the system, within a week or two after that, the solution will be ready to go. Just the last couple bullet points here, just reiterating what we talked about with all different features that we need to think about and implement into those gantry system. We'll move on to the next slide. So how does that really work in practice? You would get with your Telematics, technical support person, and they would spec out the actuator that they believe are the most relevant to the application. They would then hand that over to us at Solve, and we would put it together in an assembly and generate one of those models that we were looking at earlier. So what's interesting about that is, it shows you that you don't need to be an expert in gantry to really go out and find those opportunities. As long as you can gather ideas from a customer, get a hand sketch from them, or do one yourself and hand that over to Telematics and to us, Solve, then you would be able to get a solution, like I said before, within a few days. So we can provide, obviously, renderings like you saw earlier, or even full-on CAD models if your customer needs to drop them into their layout to verify fit and form and make sure it all looks good. And then, I think Adam or Andy talked about that earlier. The way we work with you guys is you would get the actuators from Telematics, ship them to us, and then depending on what is needed into the system, if you have motors, if you have drives, if you have controllers, whatever it is, if you carry those into your product line, we can take this from you and implement it into the system so that a cell for a few actuators turns out to be a little more than that. We can move on.
So there was a quick question, Luke, that I wanted to talk to. There was a question that was asked about what locations does Solve serve, and I wrote out an answer there. But you guys are based in New York, but you've done projects across the country, really, and quoted a lot of projects and actually delivered a lot of projects kind of all across the country here. And there's a number of ways that we can work together. We can ship product to Solve. Solve can do the integration work and then ship a finished system or kit to the distributor. But if you're in California, maybe you want to ship the actuators to California. You can buy the kit of ancillary stuff from Solve, have that shipped to you, and then you could integrate the pieces together. I mean, there's a number of ways that you could work with Solve and be creative to try and minimize some of the freight and or lead time issues here. But we're flexible. Solve is extremely flexible, and there's lots of different ways that you could work together. So anything you want to add to that, Luke, is great.
Sure. Yeah. Usually, what is going to be a driver in how we're going to do that is going to be the size of the system. So when they are small, freight and delivery, whether it's here on the East Coast or over there on the West Coast, is usually not that big of a factor. But when you're talking about large gantry system, which is really where Tolomatic excels because we have such higher capacity actuators, you gonna have large framework, large welded steel framework. What we've done in the past to minimize freight is we've worked with local fabricators, whatever your area is, and we have those people make the steel, and then we would typically pre-program everything here in New York as far as motors and controller goes. But all the heavy stuff that's going to need to be integrated on site, stays local, and then we really save in shipping costs and in logistics in general.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'm going to bring us home here. You're available to reach out to Solve directly, or all of the Tolomatic regional sales managers and the application engineers are all connected there, so we can make that connection as well. Just wrapping things up, just want to introduce this new piece of literature that we worked at putting together. I think this can be helpful to you and your sales efforts with your customers on these multi-axis solutions. If you have additional suggestions for us, always open and interested in that. We can add pages or images. If you have examples you want to send along, those are great as well. Or if there are requests, questions that come up that are not addressed here that you think we should, you can see we've actually got some room on the 4th page. We could do some things or move some things around. So always open for input. Then let me go back for just a second. There's a question here. For smaller applications, why doesn't Tolomatic offer simple transition plates between various products? That's a question that we did try to do that a number of years ago, and I think that was more pneumatically. We actually created all these transition plates, and we found out that almost all the time someone wanted something just a little bit different, that it got to be very complex, and we certainly have done some transition plates. If you look at I was going to find an application here for you. This one here actually has a Y bracket. So this bracket attaches to the carriage of this actuator and then extends underneath this actuator and supports the entire thing. So I think if there's 1 or 2 transition plates that you need, that's something that we could do, or it's something that you could order the whole thing from Tolomatic, and we might source either internally or we might partner with Solve to provide that. And frankly, as far as you're concerned, it probably doesn't matter at that point. So if you want to just have one point of contact, Tolomatic could certainly get those quotes, whether it's internally or externally, put those pieces together. If there are a few different configurations you think would be high frequency movers, or if there's an OEM that's going to buy the same thing over and over again, then we'd work with you on the most cost effective way to do that. So there's another question. If assembly is manufactured by Solve, what type of warranty field support for issues does Solve offer? So obviously all the actuators have their standard warranty, and we can work with you on that. And then Solve, Luke, you want to comment?
Sure. Yeah, we offer 12 months warranty, part and labor on everything we sell. We could quote extended warranty as required. As far as support, whatever is in the warranty will make the trip to take care of anything that happens to our equipment. And this is true for anywhere across the United States.
All right. I'll keep this open just for a little bit for any other questions while I kind of wrap up here. Number one, I want to thank you for attending the ToloTalk here and participating with us. I think we had some value to add here, and hopefully it sparked some interest for you. Just a quick reminder, all of our ToloTalks, there's about 40 of them now, are at tolomatic.com/ToloTalks, and there's also a quick link on our front web page. So go peruse all past topics if you haven't seen all of them, and there might be something interesting there that could connect with you, and or you could direct some of your customers to. The next week, next Tuesday, same time, same channel, we will be having a sizing training and challenge. You're gonna have an opportunity to work through a sizing, send it back to us, and win prizes. So do that, and we'll take you through our sizing software. with a couple of our application engineers and give you an update on that. And then a quick reminder, on the 15th of August, we're going to have a public webinar, and we're asking you to spread this news to your customers such that we hopefully, I think we had about 200 people on our first public webinar, which was fantastic, and we're hoping to do something similar again. So if you can help us promote this, we have an ebook that is on our website and is available. And what we're going to do is take that ebook concept, promote it so that people are downloading it, and then we're just going to walk through some of the key concepts here about actuator know-how for machine design engineers. So we hope that you and your customers can join us for that. And if you have any other ideas on public webinars you think would be interesting to your customers, I would welcome that. If you could shoot them to Andrew_Zasky@tolomatic.com, that would be fantastic. So with that, let's see. Oh, one last question, Luke. Have you done anything in Canada, and any concerns doing something in Canada?
No, we haven't done anything in Canada yet, but we've actually done some work in Norway and France, so we're not opposed to going abroad by any means.
All right. Bring the opportunity, sounds like. So with that, I'm going to thank everyone for joining us. Adam and Luke, thanks for assisting here. Really appreciate the content and your availability, and I hope we can go solve some customer problems here and keep the economy moving forward. So thanks so much for everyone joining our ToloTalk today.
Thank you, everyone.